Hi, Maria, and welcome to the Natural Birth Podcast. How are you?
Hi, I'm super excited to be here and talk to you today.
So exciting to have you here, all the way from Scotland. But you're not
Yes.
born in Scotland. You're not originally from
Yes.
Scotland.
Yeah, I'm from Lithuania, but I came here to study and met my husband, and the rest is history. I'm here now. So, yeah,
Beautiful. Where in Scotland are you?
in Glasgow.
Okay, beautiful.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, I've been to Scotland twice, and but not after watching Outlander, and I just feel like I just have to go back and visit all the places that they.
I know. You're a big Outlander fan, and we actually watched first season as well. And I think they're doing Outlander tours here, so you
Yeah.
must come and do that. Yeah,
I know.
absolutely.
And I think I've had at least a couple, if not more, now from Scotland. A former client and yeah, another woman, at least two, I think, maybe even more from Scotland on the podcast. So yes, now I have a few people to visit as well, don't I? So I have to go and do a little Outlander tour one day.
Absolutely. And I listened to those podcasts and I was super excited to hear because it's always the best kind of information to know when it's from your kind of locale. But the funny point is that I think both of them were from the east coast of Scotland, so maybe Edinburgh way, and one from the Highlands,
Mm.
whereas I am from Glasgow, the west coast, and I'm excited to share about the home birth team here actually. So yeah, super excited to
Oh,
talk about that. Yeah.
yes, that's awesome. So we're not going to dive straight on into your birth story, though. We're actually going to start already with kind of conceiving your baby, aren't we?
Yes, that's right. Yeah. I really wanted to share that it was an easy journey for me and perhaps to give hope to some of the other women that are going through similar things because I'm aware that fertility issues are really on the rise for men and women. But I have PCOS, or I had it. I'm not sure if I still clinically kind of consider to have it anymore, but I had it for a very long time. My period was pretty much absent for over 10 years, and I was diagnosed quite late, so I never kind of knew what is the actual cause for this. But PCOS as well is quite a broad term with many different types of PCOS. But essentially, I was diagnosed when I was 26, and that can allow me to try to find a way to heal myself because the medical world just says, oh, just take contraceptive pill, and when you want to conceive, just come back to us. And obviously, then they take you off the pill and they give you some other medication to force your ovaries to release an egg, and then you can try. So all very medicated. So I dove into kind of diet and exercise, but I think I started with a way that turned out not to suit my body. I was quite focusing on cardio, running a lot. I was vegetarian, then turned vegan. And I think I overdone it. I didn't listen to my body. I just took it as a gospel. And I think, yeah, I just had to listen to my body eventually and realize that that absolutely didn't suit me. And of course, period didn't come back, and I lost a lot of weight. My hair was falling out. So
Mm.
I had a bit of a wake-up call after listening to some other fertility podcasts, and they started talking about importance of eating breakfast because I was doing intermittent fasting again. So I was doing all the deprivation techniques, thinking that that will clean my body and help me. But yeah, then I learned that perhaps I should change my tactic because there was no positive change. And I learned about, good animal proteins and the fact that they can be very nutritious with lots of minerals and vitamins. And yeah, I started eating a bit more animal products after being vegan and started eating breakfast. And actually, 3 weeks of eating breakfast that contained eggs and then a bit of dairy, my period came back. So that was a shock of our lives to me and my husband, who always wanted to have kids, but we thought that we might not even be able to. So this was February 2022, so just last year. And we were okay, great, fantastic. And we just didn't want to have our hopes up. We thought we'll let it be and let my body do what it needs to do. But the period came back like clockwork each month. And we thought, okay, fantastic, that's a good start, but perhaps it will take us years to conceive, because sometimes healthy couples take years. But little did we know that for Christmas of that year, we got a pregnancy test that was positive, because my period was late. So that only took 8 months or so, and I was pregnant with this child that I birthed. So that's
Wow.
yeah.
That's such a beautiful story and encouraging story, I think, for anyone listening that, yeah, nutrition is so important and living according our cycle, nurturing our feminine body and a lot of things that, generally are taught as towards males, and male bodies.
Yeah.
Science haven't been researching women and women's bodies and how like anything from medication and procedures and diets and exercise, how it all affects a woman's body differently. It's just recent that it's starting to, but it's still like,
Yep.
it's just still not there. And ah, yes, I hope that anyone listening to this, who might go like, oh, I haven't had my period for a long time, or I struggle with my period.
Yep.
Like look into just the simple things of like your diet. What are you eating? Are you drinking lots of
Yep.
coffee? Are you stressing? Are you not
Yeah.
living according to your cycle? We're not the sun, we're the moon. So we wax and wane every month. It's so important to
Yeah.
follow our inner seasons for our health and well-being. I love that you shared
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. And just to quickly add is that I think my approach to healing was also very masculine, because I was like, okay, this is the protocol. I'm going to follow it extremely, and I will hope that this will heal me. But what I needed is actually more femininity and allowing to actually hear my body and see that it's not working what I'm currently doing, and just changing it slowly and gracefully and just letting it be. So I think the fact that we probably didn't take our conceiving or conception journey with this kind of masculine force, we would just let it go, because we were like, it will take us years. So of course, we're just not going to focus on it. And that's why it happened. And we really enjoyed being together with my husband. So I think that was key. So for sure, agree with what you said.
Beautiful, Marielle. That's great. Well, now we're here because you did have the baby. So you were pregnant at Christmas. And what were your thoughts like around, preparing for birth? Where did you want to birth? Did you know already how you wanted to birth, or did that kind of change throughout the process of being pregnant?
Yeah, so it's interesting because I do like to do research in advance. And whenever I thought about giving birth, even though I thought it will be maybe years away, I really like the idea of home birth. And we have a very close friend who at the time had 2 successful home births. Now she just had third a couple of days ago. So she was a bit of an inspiration, and also a bit of help to use as an example and convince my husband, because he's a doctor himself. And I'm sure many times on your podcast, people had medical partners, and that was always a bit of a challenge to convince them initially to do a home birth. So yes, from the start, I wanted a home birth, and I was already sold on the idea, and in my body, I just didn't feel like any other place would suit me. I just knew it to the core. So here in Scotland, I think in the UK, when you get pregnant, you call the maternity line and you just tell them, you inform them if you obviously want to be under the medical care. And the question that they actually asked is, where would you like to give birth? Because then they refer you to the relevant team. So on that very moment, which was just a few days after I got that pregnancy test, I just said home birth. So they referred me to a home birth team, because Glasgow has a fantastic home birth team of 3 midwives that are within NHS, so the publicly funded midwife kind of unit, and they do only the home births. So it's really fantastic, and it's a bit of a lottery of whether you have a dedicated home birth team under NHS in the UK. So I was so lucky to just appear to be in Glasgow, which has home birth team. So I knew that, I knew this fact. So I was like, of course, I think I would like to have a home birth. I did a bit of research. There's a home birth team. Now I just need to slowly, gently convince my husband, which happened eventually. He is quite respectful of my wishes, and I just had to ask him to listen to a couple of podcasts of yours and just do a bit more research. Obviously, men like facts, so he was looking into Netherlands, how they give birth at home quite frequently there, and it's actually quite successful. It's a safe place if everything is going well for your pregnancy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. Yes, that's exactly what I do with my couples too. It's just bring all the facts, and men usually want to have all of the statistics, and we'll go on a Google search for all of
Yeah.
it. And Google is pretty good nowadays. You do have to be aware that there might be bias, but there are so like it's just so overwhelmingly obvious that it's so safe and that it's done all over the world, and that it's as safe for women to birth at home, as in the hospital when it comes to mortality. And like if you look at all other things like emotional, spiritual, cultural, mental,
Yep.
physical safety, it's more safe to birth at home than in the hospital most of the time.
Absolutely. And I still obviously respect some people always want to have medical staff nearby and all the equipment that makes them feel safe. But I think for me, I was really determined to listen to my inner voice. And when I closed my eyes and thought about, right, where would I like to actually do this? The thing that I've never done, the thing that is so important to me. And it was just my own home. And I love my home. We really like to be here. So I felt it's the right place. Plus, I never been a patient in a hospital, never even had to spend a few hours myself due to any reason. So that also even made it more foreign. So yeah, that was a no-brainer for me. And I was just so happy that I could do it at home. And there was a path for me to follow with this home birth team.
Yeah, beautiful. So let's dive on into, early signs of labor approaching for you. What happened for you?
Yes, so I think just generally my pregnancy was very nice and smooth. Just had a little bit of sickness in the beginning, but nothing too much. So I was really hoping for kind of everything continuing going that way. And I must say, it has been continuing up until the very kind of the point of the birth. So I knew that first-time moms very often go over the so-called due date. And I was a little bit surprised that at maybe it was not even 38 weeks. I think it was just one day before my 38-week mark. I was pretty sure that my mucus plug came out, and that was exciting. But at the same time, from your podcast, I learned that it may mean nothing, or it may mean that the labor is coming. So I was very excited, but at the same time, didn't want to get my hopes up. And also, actually, with home birth team, they're only allowed to be responsible for your birth after you reach 38 weeks mark. So I was also very wary of that, because I really wanted to have a home birth. And in case I give birth 37 and I don't know, 5 days, then I would actually need to go to the hospital according to this kind of convention
Really?
here.
That's
Yes, and
strange. Yeah, because
yeah,
term is from 37 weeks, so that's very
yeah.
strange.
Yeah, and I asked my midwife, and I don't even remember why she said that was the case. And she even said, oh, yeah, and in some other places it's 39 weeks that they allow home birth team to be fully responsible. And I wish I remembered the reason why, but perhaps it's just some protocol. And I don't know, I'm not aware of any more risks as long as you are
No.
37 weeks. So,
Yeah. Oh,
but
and even so, like it's not like magically at 37 weeks your baby's like, whoop, all is fine. I mean, you can be
exactly.
earlier than that too, potentially. Depends on the baby, or you can be like 30, or I mean 43 weeks, and that's fine. So I
Yeah.
guess that is just, yeah, I think that's very strange. I haven't heard that before, and yeah, there's no risks.
Yeah.
Um, nah.
Yeah. Yeah, so that also actually was revealed to us a bit later. So I was like, oh, okay, I need to make, I need to need to hope that the baby will not come before that date. So, but anyway, it was all good because he didn't come before that. And after I lost my mucus plug on Wednesday, um, that was kind of the first and only early kind of sign that maybe it's around the corner. But at the same time, I was like, surely not. Like it's only like few it's few weeks away from 40 weeks, and I was just for some reason thinking that I will be one of those moms that will be way overdue. But I have to say that we did focus a lot on being in these kind of oxytocin inducing activities a lot, and I think that actually really helped for labor to start early at 38 weeks and 4 days. So actually on that night from Saturday to Sunday, that's when my waters broke. So it was mucus plug, then few days of wandering around, doing a lot of relaxing activities on the weekend. And yeah, my waters broke at midnight just as I was falling asleep from Saturday to Sunday that week.
And how did it happen for you? Was it a pop or was it a little trickle?
Yeah, it was a pop, and it was really funny because my husband just fell asleep. We used to go to bed quite early, and I was also about to fall asleep, but there was this kind of almost a dunk feeling, like it was definitely that pop that I heard before, and I could feel something coming out, and I was like, that's just not a simple discharge. There's something more going on. So I ran to the bathroom, and instantly my kind of logical brain switched on, and I was, okay, I need to make sure if this is the waters that there's no meconium in it, because I know that that's obviously a big red flag, and home birth can go out of the window usually with that. So there's a hilarious story of what I did, and I'll kind of connect that to the later point of my story. But basically, I managed to catch some water in the jar, and I was
What?
like, yes. So because it was dark and I was like very confused. I was like, how else am I going to see if the water is clear if I'm not able to
Oh,
like see it? So I managed to catch it just the way you would catch a pea to like do a strip or a test, you know? So because I have jar in my bathroom, I think still from doing pregnancy tests. And yeah, the water was clear and I was very happy. And I was then thinking, okay, this definitely looks like the real thing. And then I think an overwhelming sense of shock and even fear came over me, because I think I'm type of a person that likes to be organized, and I really had in my mind that this birth will happen in a few weeks, and I was really thrown off. And that was the first lesson by where I learned that I shouldn't expect anything and just drop all my expectations. So I think because it was shock, I definitely started almost shaking a little bit, because I was like, it's the middle of the night. My husband just fell asleep. I'm not ready for this. And I think a few, maybe, I don't remember minutes or hours the whole time, just really started to be very weird. I don't remember how long the time passed, but I think I started getting my first kind of surges. So I was like, whoa, this is like really happening. And what was going through my head was very interesting, because we had a couple other friends that gave birth recently, and for both of them, birth happened within 12 hours of the waters breaking. So I was like, oh my goodness, this is happening. The baby will be here soon. And of course, I knew that I still should probably rest, because that's the rule. If the waters break at night, go back to bed and try to rest as much as possible. So I did that, but of course I couldn't sleep. And also, I think that contractions, they intensify during the night because it's nice and quiet and relaxing. So definitely I was feeling them, and I was like, okay, I'll just do my best to rest and then wake up my husband maybe in early morning. So yeah, that was first sleepless night. And it was really incredible to just deal with those emotions of being not prepared mentally and thinking, oh, it's the birth will happen weeks away. And here I am with my waters just breaking and I'm having contractions. So that was a big shock.
I think this is the first time I've ever heard someone catch their water in a jar.
Yes,
And
I heard this from other medical staff.
I think this is hilarious and super clever and very funny. And for anyone listening, if you ever do think that your waters are broken, just pop a pad on, like a maternity pad, like lie down for 20 minutes, half an hour. And when you sit up, it's going to be pooling inside, right? It'll come out
Yeah,
and you'll catch
exactly.
it in your pad. Or if it's just running, then it's your waters. And you can catch it with just standing up too. But you can see on the pad too. You can see the color and
Yeah.
all of that.
I think I maybe didn't even have pads unpacked or they weren't in the bathroom. I think it was just, as I say, very unorganized. So the only thing I had was a jar. And because it was going in this kind of gush that almost felt like a pee, to be honest, because I felt
Mm.
like when I tensed my belly, it would come out more.
Mm.
So I was like, okay, well, I need to look at it. I can't do anything else. So, but yeah, I think I will go down in history in the hospital then we had to visit after, and I'll share more about that. But yeah, so yeah, that was the first part of the story. And obviously, I woke up my husband 5 a.m. and he was very excited, but at the same time also was like, okay, need to get ready, need to, blow up the pool perhaps, and just, at least have it there set up for that. And you know, proper morning came with all the light because it was mid-August, and I think my contractions just stopped being as intense after I woke up. As we know, in the morning we have most cortisol in the system because we are alert. And we just decided, okay, well, let's just take it easy and see how it goes. We had good breakfast, and contractions again, they didn't come back on. They were just very sparse, I would say. Yeah, one would come, then another would be maybe half an hour, then few more would come, and then again a big pause. So
Mm.
we decided to continue taking it easy and just watch a comedy. I have a very fun comedy that I like, and we laughed so much throughout of it. And obviously, laughter helps with oxytocin. And yeah, nothing happened. So that was already in the afternoon, and we were like, huh, okay, very interesting. We kind of thought that maybe this will come on, but nothing was happening. So I think with that, nothing was happening. We, towards the evening, started to maybe not worry a little, but be a bit more aware that, okay, this is not as we expected, perhaps. And again, that's the key word, expectation, is what probably made it more stressful for us. And yeah, evening came again. Throughout the whole day, the contractions were very kind of sparse, and there were no patterns to them. So that was very, very challenging, I would say, because the evening came and I almost kind of started becoming a bit unsure what is going on, because I think I started reading as well that, when waters break, you kind of need to be aware that labor perhaps will start, but it may not start. And the longer you go without labor starting, there's a risk of increased infection. So we decided to go to sleep again that following night and see what happens during the night, and then maybe reassess in the morning the next day. So that second night was again a very sleepless night, because contractions, of course, intensified to the extent where I couldn't sleep. I had to have a comb in my hand, just try to really press on it because it was really intense. So my husband tried to sleep. I think he managed a few hours, but I was completely, I don't know, maybe slept a few minutes in between if contractions had a bit bigger pause. So that was really hard because I was like, okay, this is coming on again, but I don't really feel any change or pattern to them. And it's just so hard because I'm getting quite exhausted. The second sleepless night and this whole idea of hopefulness and that not happening. Will I have my home birth still? So anyway, that night passed and maybe 6 a.m. arrived. I woke up my husband and we were like, okay, we should perhaps call the switchboard at the hospital, because we didn't do that up until that point, because with the home birth, it's typical that you wait till your labor intensifies to the extent that you call your midwife to come to you when the contractions are regular and intense. So that obviously didn't happen for us. So we thought, okay, we probably will call just general hospital and let them know what is happening. So in case we need to go to the hospital or anything, there's a bit of
So
awareness.
during this time, though, had you not communicated with your midwives?
No, because we were waiting all that time to allow contractions to intensify, but that just
Okay.
didn't happen. And we also didn't want the pressure in a way. I was like,
Yeah.
I just want to give it a good go. And
Mm,
that's why we were kind of making decisions in stages. We kind of waited till the
mm,
evening. And there were points where maybe contractions would intensify, but then they would fizzle out again. So it was very up and
mm,
down.
mm,
So we made the decision that, okay, we'll contact the medical staff in the morning if nothing happens during the night. So
mhm.
of course, we called them. They just ask all the questions. Obviously, whether I have temperature, is everything okay? Um, where the water's clear and all that. So we just confirmed all is fine, but obviously labor is not establishing. So they just suggested that we come in to the hospital to check on the baby's kind of heart rate and everything. So we did that. We packed up even the kind of hospital bag just in case we need to stay. We are kind of first time parents, so we really didn't know what to expect, and because this whole process wasn't going according to our plan, we were just trying to be prepared for everything. And of course, ironically, on the way to the hospital, especially going all the speed bumps, the contractions started to intensify. And that was very funny. But I was like, okay, I'm not getting false expectations or hopes here. I'll just go to the hospital, see how it goes. And it was a beautiful morning, beautiful day on Monday. So we went there, and obviously they wanted to check if my waters have broken. But in my birth plan and generally in my own mind, I didn't want any tests at all. And I don't even know how they check if the waters are breaking, have broken. But I think they need to perhaps check inside of you. Is that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what happens is that you would
Yeah.
be, lying on your back up in stirrups, and they would put in a speculum, and then they would
Yeah.
test, because it would be again a bit of pooling of the waters inside, and they could test it like
Right.
that. Um,
Okay.
and yeah, I mean, you can also do the sniff test, which is taking your um, maternity pad and actually smell it. So if anyone
Yeah.
ever wants to know if your water's broken, if you have a pad on, you can
Yeah.
smell it. And amniotic fluid actually smells a bit like semen.
Yeah.
It's quite
Hmm.
strong. So compared to like normal discharge, which usually is a bit sweet smelling,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it is different. So you can, as a midwife, I think all midwives should know how to smell a pad. It's part of our training, I think.
Yeah,
Not everyone,
absolutely.
not everyone does though, or knows that, unfortunately. But it's a very quick way of noticing if anything.
Yeah. Well, as you know, I had my magical jar, so I
Ah,
actually took
did you
it to
bring
the
your
hospital.
jar?
Yes, because I was like,
So
I
you
need to show it
saved
to them.
it. You saved it from the day before.
Yes, I think I forgot about it completely. And
That's a bit
then I
funny.
remembered, okay, how am I going to confirm that my waters have broken? And yeah, we showed the jar, and the midwife was mortified as well. She was like, I'd never seen this before. So we made everyone laugh. And as I say, we're going to go down in history in that hospital. And this midwife was actually not our home birth team. She was just a midwife on duty for just the regular hospital births. So yeah, so she didn't need to check me for the waters. They definitely broken. There was evidence, but what happened there in that visit, that of course they checked baby's position, confirmed that head is definitely engaged, and the heartbeat was absolutely fine as well. So that gave us a bit of reassurance. But then what happened after is that, okay, so they counted how many hours passed since my waters broke, and it was at that point maybe 36, I think. And they kind of explained the protocol that, okay, so the longer time passes after waters break, the higher risk of infection. So we would actually recommend an induction for you. So I'm just going to book you for induction at 9 p.m. That was her language. And I was like, huh, that's again very like, I'm doing this for you versus, look, these are the risks. These are the things that you need to consider. we would recommend an induction. So she just kind of put it on us. She was nice, but I think it's just the way that they work in there. And of course, they want the best for the baby. Of course, the protocol says that you need to have this induction because by the 48 hours mark is what is accepted in the UK, or barely accepted to allow you to go without your
Yeah.
waters.
Well, it's important to know actually that if you actually look at the evidence, there's no difference in the rate of infection in baby, whether or not you induce at, say, 18 hours or go to 72, even past 96 hours, even past that. Like I've cared for a woman and that she's coming on the podcast to share about this. I think it took her 4 days before she started labor and birth after her waters broke. And I helped her a lot with all the information so that she could make an informed decision because she wouldn't get it at the hospital. And actually, evidence says that yes, your risk of infection increases somewhat, but the risk for the baby actually doesn't. If women actually knew this, maybe they wouldn't be so keen to do induction at 18 hours or 24 hours or 48 hours because most women, like 95% of women or more, 98, will have a baby within 72 hours if they wait after their water spray.
Yep. And that's exactly what we tried to find out after we left that hospital, because another thing that was kind of thrown upon us was the fact that not only I will need to go for induction that night at 9 p.m., she booked us for it, but also we will need to have an antibiotic drip. And we were like, that's like, okay, that's like another additional thing that is obviously not something we wanted. But there's a funny point about that because this midwife called us back a few hours later saying, oh, I'm sorry, actually, I made a mistake. The protocol doesn't require you to have antibiotic drip. It's just the induction that we recommend. And we're like, all right, okay. But at that point, when I left the hospital with that thought and with that paper, with the induction booked, I was like, that just doesn't feel right. I just feel like I don't feel good about this. It doesn't feel, my body was just full body no. And also, of course, that was early morning. It was 9 a.m. maybe, or even earlier, and we were booked for 9 p.m. So we still had a good few hours to allow labor to come in naturally. And we decided just to focus on that. So because we spent the whole day in our apartment the day before, thinking, that labor will come. We were drawn curtains. We were almost like in this cave. We decided to actually go outside and go to my favorite cafe after the hospital visit. And we had really nice matcha latte and some brownies, all really delicious stuff. And sure enough, contractions really intensified in that cafe. To the extent where I really had to stop and breathe through them. And I think they felt more intense than the ones from the day before. So we spent that beautiful time together. It was sunny, so I think it just helped. And again, when we sat in the cafe, we started reading about this whole infection rate again. Husband, being a doctor, really cared for the stats. And even in one of the medical papers from another hospital, maternity hospital in the UK, they did say that the risk of infection, and again, I don't remember whether they specified baby or mom, with the waters breaking increases from 0.5% to 1%. So, I mean, it's very, very little. So when I saw that, that actually gave me reassurance that, okay, this is not like crazy infection rate that I should be just thinking about.
But it's treated as such, isn't it? And if you decline things, you get the answer, well, do you want a dead baby? I mean, that's truly what people say. But they use them because the risk doubles, right?
Yeah,
So it sounds,
exactly.
it increases by 50%. But what is the actual percentage? And this is the thing that women always have to remember is, well, ask for the actual number. And usually it's like 1 in 1,000, or 0.5 in 1,000. And then you go, oh, okay, well, then doubling a 50% increase doesn't really seem like the right thing to say there, does it?
Yep. That was exactly it. And my husband actually asked for the stats to this midwife, but she, of course, didn't know them. And she just said, oh, it's just a protocol.
Exactly. And that's the thing too, that everyone needs to remember is that midwives
Yeah.
and doctors in the system, like many of them don't have the time to research the new research and actually understand the depth of everything. They take the policies and guidelines at face
Yeah.
value
Yeah.
and just follow protocol.
Yeah. And we tried to understand why she obviously had to suggest these things, and she was nice enough about it. But for us, we just had to tense up and be like, okay, doesn't feel right for us. Let's look at the stats, then let's allow ourselves time to have this whole labor come on naturally. And again, yes, I read the stats that some women, of course, will have their labor established within 24 hours, but majority will have within 48, or like the very last portion of women will have within another day. So we were like, okay, there's now more chance that this labor will come naturally than not. So we have to give it a try. So yeah, we went back home. I think we tried to watch something on TV again, but contractions subsided again, and we're like, okay, let's maybe go for a walk. Let's try to change it up a bit. Again, they would come, but not regularly enough. I even started using the app to count, but I think that just made it worse in a way that if I didn't see that they're regular enough, I would become a bit more annoyed because I really wanted this birth to come along. And then I think it was maybe after a few hours, so 4 p.m. So it was kind of becoming closer to that 9 p.m. hour that we had in our minds. My husband was like, look, we've done all this hypnobirthing relaxation techniques and everything. Let's just go and practice it now. Let's just create our den with all the aromatherapy, with the music that we were listening to during hypnobirthing practicing, and all the massage, and just be in this kind of relaxed state as much as we can, even though that kind of it feels like odds are against us and this home birth that we really want will be not possible. So that was actually the best decision for us, because we went into our bedroom. Bedroom is always a very intimate, sacred place. We did all the aromatherapy, the music. And I remember contractions were intense, and each time when they came along, I had to pause and breathe through them. And I remember my husband was giving me the words of encouragement, but that at that point, I just felt like I just wanted to be in silence. Like my body was just like, I just want to be, I just want to sway with this music. I just want to hug with you and just be very close, skin to skin. So I actually said, let's just be quiet for a while. So we remained in that den, as I say, just cuddling, being together for maybe an hour or so. And after that, that's when I think my labor started to become the real established labor. So it was funny because initially we were just swaying, dancing, hugging by the bed. And each time the contraction would come, I would have to lean against the wall and kind of really breathe through it. But then contractions became so intense that I had to pretty much go on all fours. I just felt like all fours was a very nice position to be in, and holding on the bed rail. And I think I reached the point where that really felt like a real deal. And it was interesting because I knew that the stronger the contraction, the more intense the sensation, the better, because that means that my real labor is establishing. So throughout the whole labor, the kind of the established labor and the birth, I used this to my advantage in a way that the more intense meant I can have my home birth. So I was really welcoming the sensations to the extent that I was actually telling them like, okay, come more. I want you to come. I'm happy to like go through this. I'm not afraid. Just come along and like get that baby closer to us. So I think that would really help me. And that was kind of the mind game that I played with myself to allow to persevere. Because obviously I read a lot, I listened a lot, and some women were saying that, you know, contractions can feel very different from pain. It just feels something else. It just feels like sensations. But I think for me, it was definitely the feeling of pain. And I welcomed it, as I say. And it was hard, but I just really tried my best to lean into them. And I'll always remember that I can do anything for a minute. So I really welcomed the breaks. They were glorious. So at that point, it was maybe 5:30 or so. In one of my breaks, I said, you should probably call the switchboard again. So my husband called the switchboard. First of all, said, we don't need the induction. Second of all, send the home birth team to us because we are really established now. So that was great. I knew that the midwife will be on the way now. And she came maybe half an hour after the call, so quite quickly. And it was one of the most experienced midwives in that home birth team. She's like 65 years old, really seen a lot in her career. And it was very nice that it was her on the call because out of the 3 midwives, we were the closest to this midwife who came first, and then the second midwife who will come later as well, because you are allocated 2 midwives in your birth here during the home birth. They were both our closest midwives, so we were very happy about that. But yeah, so at this point, I'm on all fours on a bed, and this midwife came, and it felt very good because I know that it can be a bit distracting when a new person comes into the space. But I think because I was so happy it was her, I was still in my element, riding those contractions. And she came, she just gently said, okay, looks good. Looks like they're very strong and you're doing so well. And then she went away and spoke with my husband in another room, because in my birth plan, we wanted all communication to go through my husband, because that's just the best way when you are in that intense labor period. So I could hear that they're talking something in another room. Obviously, didn't listen. I just concentrated on breathing through all contractions. So I used breathing techniques like 4 breaths in and then long breath out. So I tried to do that as much as possible. And just had my comb in my hands as well, because the labor was quite intense at that point. But here comes the first interesting point of my kind of actual birthing story. My husband came to me and he whispered to my ear saying that, look, now it's almost been, what was it, 42 hours of time that passed since the waters broke, and the midwife thinks that there might not be enough opening in your kind of cervix. Perhaps she could maybe check on you just to make sure that you are open enough, because if you are not, they would recommend going to the hospital, because this midwife thought that because my labor established very recently, perhaps I will be just few centimeters dilated, perhaps the birth is still far away. And I think according to their rule book, if I will take another 12 hours to birth this baby, then it will be way past the this kind of 48-hour window where they are worried about this infection.
The bullshit,
So
yeah.
yeah, so I was in my element thinking, right, I didn't want any vaginal exams,
No,
but
and that's also increasing your risk of infection. Like, it's insane to me to, yeah, anyway, okay.
yeah, no, absolutely. I see where you're kind of getting annoyed at this, because yeah, it's just, I think they're tied with the protocols, which is sad,
Yeah.
because it's midwife, home birth midwife team, but obviously they're still employed publicly. So that's why I think
NHS, yeah.
if I had it
Policy
privately, it would
guidelines.
be very differently. Yeah. So anyway, I thought, right, okay, if she thinks that I'm not maybe dilated enough, I'm happy to actually agree to this vaginal exam. Plus, because I was absolutely sure at that point that I'm quite dilated. I remember I even stuck the finger inside me and I could feel baby's head quite low. And I was like, right, it's definitely, I feel like I need to go to this pool and start pushing almost. But between one contraction, I agreed to this exam. And this midwife that thought that I will be few centimeters dilated, she checked me. And I have to say, I thought that checks will not feel nice. I hear that they're very uncomfortable, but actually for me, it was absolutely fine. I don't know what was with me. Maybe I was very relaxed with this person. Maybe I just didn't want to make it worse for myself by tensing up, so I tried to relax. But it didn't feel bad at all. Actually, it felt all right.
It so
So
depends on both, of course, you as the woman, but also the midwife or the person doing it. You know, you can do it
yeah,
super gently, especially if you, yeah, you can do it so gently. I mean, there's also all
yeah.
these practitioners that will do a vaginal examination and at the same time do like a stretch and sweep without telling a woman. That's
Oh,
definitely painful. Yeah. Mm.
yeah,
So, I mean,
that's
yeah, no, it's
yeah.
totally up to the woman and her experience.
Yeah, so I was glad that it was comfortable enough not to distract me from my labor. And yeah, she checked. I was 8 centimeters. So in, yeah, within few hours of established labor, I was like, yeah, no wonder I'm 8 centimeters. I'm like literally ready to push almost here. So after that, obviously, they let me go to the pool. The pool was ready, and actually, I remember another reason why she recommended checking me was because if I'm still in early stages, if I'm not dilated enough, of course, if I go to the pool, because I really wanted to go to the pool, my labor may subside a little bit. So I think that's why she also kind of recommended. But I have to say, just to be completely honest, that it was definitely an informed choice of mine, and the way that my husband presented the options were very gentle, so I felt really okay with my choice after that, because also I was very sure that I need to go to the pool right now. So contractions were very intense at that point. So I remember, yeah, stepping into the pool, and that was very, very, very beautiful to just feel that warm water. It was instantly a relief. However, I think at that point, maybe I had a mini wobble, or what's that point? The
Transition.
when yeah, I think I had the transition then, because for maybe quarter of a minute or maybe a minute, I just felt like I'm just so tired and exhausted, and this pain is so intense. And I generally, for some reason, thought of myself as not very good with pain, physical pain. I don't know why. There's some preconceived idea about myself that I am not good with like lasting with pain. But I mean, in retrospect, I was really proud of myself to birth and go through all that without any pain relief apart from just warm water. But yeah, I was feeling like, okay, this is just so intense. I had to bear this now for a few hours, and now obviously the pushing stage comes, and of course I was not sure how is that gonna feel. I need to persevere and feel even more pain. How am I gonna survive this? So there was a bit of a wobble there, but I don't know. I think I quickly came out the other end from that transition, and I just could feel that the things are going down. So I will need to focus on that. So it was interesting because we learned in hypnobirthing that, okay, in pushing stage, you breathe your baby down, and you can continue breathing, and that's the best way. I have to say, all hypnobirthing went out of the window in the pushing stage for me, and the whole pushing stage was
Hmm.
very primal.
Hmm.
And I just realized that I just need to do what I need to do to birth this baby. So yeah, that sense of something else taking over was definitely very real for me. And I didn't even think about things. I just did what my body had to do. And, you know, my husband again was whispering words of encouragement for me. And he was, you know, saying, breathe your baby down. And I think I actually asked him to shut up. I think I was quite intense in that moment where I was like, just be quiet, please. And I just started breathing the way that felt right, which was actually this quick, this kind of short, intense breathing, and that just felt so good. And yeah, I was in the pool. I think it was, I don't remember, maybe before 8 o'clock, 7:30, something like that. And it felt very nice, but there was one or couple things that were very funny. So I had really bad leg cramps in my thighs, the back and the front, because of the positions that I assumed in the pool. I don't know why they didn't really suit my body. Maybe because I was also exhausted after 2 sleepless nights. I don't think I ate enough and drank enough. So that was I just couldn't believe it. I was like, I'm pushing and this baby is coming. There's obviously intense sensation. And plus, I'm having freaking cramps. I just couldn't believe it. But of course, I just had to like try to massage my legs, and I
Mm.
asked others to massage my legs. And I think by that point, second midwife also arrived just before the pushing stage became quite like intense, and I could feel um, the head coming out quite low and almost like out of me. There was also a very funny side story that midwives asked if they can bring a student with them for this labor, and I agreed to it. I obviously really want people to see home births. But the moment the student stepped up into the flat, I could smell her perfume. And I remember one of your podcast guests saying about this, that a midwife had strong perfume. And I think for her case, it was the actual midwife, whereas this was obviously a student. So I remember, because I was in my very aggressive primal self, I was like, that person cannot come into the room. I said
Love
she
that.
cannot be here. Yeah, so I shut it down instantly, and she just sat in another room, and I think she obviously could do some documentation and just hear me roar in the other room. But yeah, I think the whole kind of politeness and the filter that here, I think in the UK is very important, you know, to be polite and courteous. That whole thing just fell off, and I was almost like a sergeant in my kind of primal, very masculine self. Actually, I think really it was my masculine side that helped me to birth this baby, because it really allowed me to just say what I need and just, you know, just concentrate on the task. So it was definitely not the calm birth that I imagined and saw in Instagram videos, but it was the birth that really worked for me. And yeah, with that attitude, I just kept pushing. I remember I waited for the contraction, and I just felt that it was right for me to push with the contraction. Again, I listened to information that some people just allow the body to do it by itself, but I just felt that it was right for me to push with my body. And yeah, I think we reached the point where the head would come out a little bit and then go back up. And that was really, again, just so irritating for me, because I was like, oh my goodness, like, how long will I need to go through this? But again, I remember the longer I go through this, the better it's for my tissues, because that just allows to gently stretch it. So I just try to be patient and just allow it to do it. But yeah, I remember a couple strong contractions and pushes were the ones um, where the head actually came out. I think either half of it or fully. I remember feeling that crowning in the ring of fire. I remember after that, where another contraction came, I pushed so hard. I thought that literally something down there completely torn apart. So that was very intense sensation. But after that, I remember there was a very big sense of relief when the head came out. But because I concentrated on this task for so long, essentially 2 days, I was thinking about this birth. I just thought that my birth will never end. I just thought, okay, head is out, but there's the whole body to birth. I still need to concentrate. This gonna still last long. So it was very funny, because the midwives already summoned my husband to go to the back of the pool, because I was on my all fours, kind of leaning forward. So obviously we wanted either me or him to catch the baby. So my husband went to the back, and another midwife came to the front to hold my hand and help me just kind of do the final pushes. And yeah, within a couple more, the baby was out, and my husband caught him. So we knew that it was a baby boy, and I just couldn't believe it. I was like, is this over? Is this real? Like, have I just done this? Is this for sure I'm not needing to birth anymore? So I was in utter shock and definitely full of adrenaline. I didn't cry at all, because I was just in such a shock. I just kept repeating, I can't believe this. Is this real? Is this my baby? Is this finished? So yeah, so quite an intense time. but very happy ending.
So how long was that active labor phase for?
So around 4 hours, really. Let's say from 6 till 9:45. So
Wow.
quite quick. Yeah.
And that's the thing too, like when your waters break and you also did have on and off contractions, like your body was doing things. It was just not in
Yep.
that typical start till finish
Yep.
story, which is also a variation of normal. And when you were chatting there, you said, your masculine helped you birth. I mean, the feminine is not just soft and calm either. It's like
Yep.
you have, if you would look at different deities, like you have Kali, right?
Mm-hmm.
The most fierce goddess, right?
True. True.
Um, and so I feel like we need to embrace all facets of the feminine, and she is wild, like the ocean, right? She's the storm as well. She's everything. Everything. That is the feminine, really. And
Yeah.
it is powerful to birth. And I feel like all women truly meet their power in birth. And I love that you were a drill sergeant in your birth.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And I think you're absolutely right. It's still the most feminine and amazing thing I've done. And perhaps it was the kind of the inner fire of a mother that just was like, I know what to do here. You
Yeah.
just stay quiet and dark around me and no perfume and just let me do this. Yeah, so I even remember it was very funny. In one push, I pushed so hard I almost saw stars in my eyes and I felt I'm gonna faint.
Mm.
So I just screamed, I need sugar. I said nothing more concretely. I just said sugar. And my husband was like trying to bring me dried fruit. And I was like, no, sugary water. And he was like, what do you mean sugary water? And we had some like fizzy tonic drink or something. And I was like, tonic, bring me that tonic. So obviously I was not always very clear into what I needed, but I knew exactly what I needed at the core. I was still thinking so logically. That's what was very interesting to me because I knew that, okay, I'm pushing really hard and I'm nearly feeling like I'm gonna faint. Means I need hydration, I need sugar, I need energy. Next time I'll be more precise though. I'll say I need tonic water because that's the only sugary drink we had in the apartment, funnily enough. So yeah, it was a wild ride, but it was just so good, and I was just so happy at that story. Yeah.
Mm. Beautiful. And then your baby was out.
Yes, and he let us scream out actually. Maybe water was already getting quite cold at that point, so he let a very nice, healthy scream, but he settled quickly on my chest. It was very beautiful. Um, and yeah, because the water was getting cold, midwife said, okay, let's maybe move you to the couch. And they almost wanted to hold my baby while I stand up because I was obviously very weak with all those cramps as well, but I was not letting him go. I was like, no, I'll hold him. So they just helped me up, two people from both sides. And there comes another curveball in the story, with still good ending though, is that the moment I stood up, there was a gush of blood coming into the water, and I felt absolutely fine. I was so unfazed by it. I think I was still really high on all the hormones, and I was just so happy of the relief that the birth was over. And I was just like, okay, there's blood, but I expected there will be blood a little
Mhm.
bit. But I think maybe they just saw that it was gushing and they were not sure. You never know where it's coming from or the reason why. So they obviously summoned me quickly to the couch, which was fine. I just lay there with my baby. And during that time, midwife instantly checked down there just to see, okay, are there any tears and anything else? But luckily, the blood seemed to be just the blood from the placenta because
Mhm.
placenta was literally hanging almost at the exit. And I was like, this is fantastic because I was so like worried again that maybe placenta will take ages to birth, but she was ready to come out. And she was like, okay, no, all good, no problem with the blood, and there's just your placenta ready to come out. So could you just give me a couple of pushes, like if you would go for number 2 in a toilet, and I just did that, and the placenta plopped out, and she was just beautiful there. And at that point, the cord was already completely white, and our birth plan said that we want the cord to be cut only when placenta comes out. So that was actually very smooth and quick anyway. So yeah, my husband cut the cord. At all this time I was still chilling on my back on my couch at home with my baby on my chest, and the midwife checked for tears. There were no tears, just a couple of abrasions. So I was like, fantastic. I couldn't ask for better experience, especially due to that feeling when the head was being birthed. I thought that everything torn apart there. I was literally thinking, oh my goodness, what's going to happen here?
Isn't it
But when she,
amazing? You know, our amazing body and our amazing
yeah,
vaginas.
yeah,
Incredible.
yeah, I couldn't believe it, to be honest. I was like, this is just the best thing ever. And I was just so glad that my husband had to witness such a birth firsthand, because he obviously in medical school saw births that were medicated and with forceps and all that. So it's a
Mm,
completely different experience for him. And I
mm,
was like, this is just amazing. So the last thing that I obviously very wanted, very wished for, is that the baby will do the breast crawl and attach to the breast. And he did that too. So I was like, this is the best day of my life. Literally, we were just laying there, golden hour, baby crawled attached to the breast, and we were just on our couch in absolute heaven, I would say, because it was also nice and dark. The fairy lights were on, and it was our own home. Midwives left to the other room to give us that golden hour.
mm,
And that was it. That was our baby was there.
mm.
So yeah.
Ah, what a blissful story. And you know, for anyone listening, how long time did it take before you got out of the pool? You know, when you had a little gush of blood, how long after the birth was that?
It was actually straight away, I would say maybe 2 minutes or so. So I just held my baby a little bit in the pool, but the water was getting cold. So very quickly. Yeah.
Yeah, because the thing is, usually when the placenta separates from the uterine wall, there is a bit of a gush of blood. That's
Yeah.
normal. You know, that's the
Mm.
separation of the placenta. And so that
Mm.
happened when you moved out of the pool. And it
Yeah.
can be important to know that, because sometimes even midwives in the hospital will act on that, being afraid of blood and being afraid of
Mhm.
hemorrhage, when actually it's just the separation bleed.
Yeah.
So if it doesn't continue to host, then of course that's a different story. But if it was just that gush, then usually that's probably the placenta detaching.
Yeah. And I definitely felt all right. And I always reverted from my research that I need to look how I feel. And I felt absolutely fine. So I was not worried. It was just all of them being
Yeah.
worried, scrambling around, looking. And I was like, I'm just chilling. I'm good. So yeah, for
Mm,
me, it was all very, very positive, after all, I would say. Yeah.
I love that. So if you had a first time mama in front of you right now who's about to have her first baby, and she
Yeah.
really wants to have a natural and empowering birth experience, what advice and pearls of wisdoms would you give to her?
Yes, so I wrote a couple down actually, just to make sure that these are the ones. So first, I would say immerse yourself in positive birth stories, so it becomes your truth and knowledge that that is the way to birth.
Mm,
So listening to your podcasts or reading books was so important, because that became my truth. Because I think conventionally women know birth as what is portrayed in the media and all the scares and everything. And that is their truth. That is their view of birth. But for me, it was completely opposite. And it helped me to believe that I can have the birth that I deserve, the birth that I want, which was the natural home birth for me. So that's one. Then I would say drop any expectations as much as possible and be patient. So I mentioned to you many times this word expectation throughout our early labor stage, which made it way more stressful, because we expected that the baby will come because other friends had babies after waters break in within certain hours. So it's this logical kind of brain that wants to control things, that wants to know, okay, it will happen today. But if you allow or are able to drop that, I think that's one of the best strategies, because as my example shows, and many other women's example will show, that labor can take so long and early labor can take so long. And I think that early labor can be very, very, very tough, especially if you are quite eager and impatient. So that was the biggest lesson for us. And yeah, that's an important point. And then the last point, which is, I learned that from the pushing active stage, is that do what you need to do to birth your baby, because you know best, nobody else, not your partner, not the midwife. If you really tap into the primal internal sensation, you know exactly what to do, whether it's to just lean back and allow your body to work, or if you want to push with your body, do that, because you really know the best. And that knowing is actually the most pristine and clear knowing I ever had in my life. I don't think I ever had such a knowing, because my mind is always switched on. I'm a very analytical person that way. But in that moment, it was all body, and mind was just helping. It was tapping in and out, but it was pure listening to what I need to do. So yeah, those are the 3 points.
Love that. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's been a pleasure hearing your story. I've been waiting since you shared in the village that you had your baby.
Yes, thank you very much for having me. Honestly, it's so amazing to share it after listening to so many podcasts. So thank you so much.
Thank you for listening. If you love this podcast, then please consider sharing it, leave a review, or make a contribution on our Patreon page. And if you want to connect on social media, then find the podcast on Instagram as the Natural Birth Podcast. Thank you for listening.